You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast. I'm super excited because today I have Liam Naden on the line. Now, Liam is a speaker, teacher, writer, and researcher that helps you understand the process for creating true success in your life by understanding how to use your brain the right way. And we'll get into what he means by that. Overcoming your problems, achieving your goals, and ending frustrations. He is the host of the podcast, Using Your Brain for Success, and creator of the Neuro-State Rebalancing, a process which automatically gets the 4 parts of your brain working the right way to bring you the life you want. Liam is also an experienced marriage and relationships coach, host of the Growing in Love for Life podcast, author of more than 20 books, and creator of 4 relationship coaching programs. So, hey, Liam, how are you today?
Hi, Tiffany. I'm great. Thanks. Thanks very much for having me on your show.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. So before we hit record, we were getting to know each other, like, where are you located and things like that. And you said, I'm on a boat in France. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. So can you tell our audience, because you let me in, that you've been living on the boat for 7 years now?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. On and off.
So how does that, how did you get into living on a boat? Like, what made you say, you know what, I'm going to go live on a boat and I'm going to live my best life?
Well, the thing is, these days, I mean, I'm a bit older than you, I think. And but if you go back 10 years or certainly 20 years, none of this would have been possible. But I think the opportunity today to really live the life that you want with total freedom, with what we have in the way of technology. I mean, I can be talking to you from the other side of the world, and I can be working from anywhere. There's just so much opportunity. So, what I'm doing, sailing around on a boat, really just came about because we thought, well, why do we want to be anywhere? Why don't we just be nowhere and just travel around? We can. And I'm sure many of your listeners, if you're thinking like that, you can do it as well. It's very possible. There's never been a better time in history to say, I don't really think I want the house and the mortgage. I mean, if you want the house and the mortgage, fine, but it's not the only option these days, which I think is fantastic.
Yes, that is so awesome. I thought that was so unique. And I just wanted to get into, why you chose that and, pretty much how you got started doing it. So right now you said you're traveling around Europe, just touring Europe on the boat?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Been to 15 countries so far.
Awesome. Wow. And you're joining us all the way from France right now. So that is awesome. Now, let's get into the real reason why you're here. I just wanted to highlight that to give my audience just another idea of how you could possibly live your life. So while we're here, though, is because...
If anyone wants any tips on how to do it, send me an email. I'll happy to give some advice.
Right. Awesome. That's awesome. So, but while we're here is... using your brain the right way. Now, when you say the right way, what does that even mean?
Well, that's a really interesting point because everybody's got a car these days. And we know a car what is it? It's simply a machine designed to do a certain job. And what's the job it's designed to do? Take you from where you are to where you want to go. And it's designed to do it easily, efficiently, giving you an enjoyable ride. And you don't need to think about it. You know that that's what it's going to do. But you also know that if you want to get it to where you want to go, you have to learn how to drive it. I mean, it'd be crazy getting into a car and going, yes, I'll take it to where I want to go. But what are all these levers and buttons? Nobody's ever taught me how to drive it, but I'll just figure it out for myself. I'll work it out. Can't be that difficult. And if you knew nothing about cars, you might say, maybe what I need to do is get out and push the car to get it moving. Maybe that's how it works, how this car thing works. See, you get out and you push and you put all this effort in and struggle, and it hardly moves, or if it does move at all, it's not very much. And you think, oh, wow, this is such a struggle here. Oh, I know what the problem is. I'm not trying hard enough, or I don't have enough muscle power. So I need to be more determined and more motivated, so you push that car even harder. And it still doesn't work very, very well. And you begin to think, and then someone comes along and says, hey, you don't know how to drive this car. What are you doing trying to push it? Why are you struggling? Why are you putting in so much of this effort? You need to learn how to drive it. And it turns out that the human brain is just another machine. But no one's ever taught us how to drive our brain. And we also don't understand a couple of things about the brain. Firstly, how powerful it is. It's literally vastly more powerful than any computer system in the world. It's trillions of times more powerful than a computer. And it really is, it also has a very specific job as well. Just like the car is designed to get you from where you are to where you want to go, your brain is a biological machine that you've been given to make sure you get to where you want to go. Because your purpose for being here biologically is to survive and thrive. And by thrive, that means being the best that you can be. Because your biological purpose is to survive and thrive, as I just said. But no one has ever made us realize that the brain is a machine. It's designed to make us survive and thrive. It's designed to give us everything we want, to make us happy. But no one's ever taught us how to drive it. No one's ever sat down and said, right, well, if you want to use your brain to be happy, this is the way you drive it. So it's really weird, that, isn't it? And that's really what I spent many years trying to figure out: how to be happy, how to be successful, how to be rich. And I certainly achieved a lot of financial success and happiness a little bit on the outside, but I also had lots of stress in my life. But it was only when I figured out how the brain works and figured out how to use it that really things got a lot better. And then I could start doing things like go and live on a boat and do what I really wanted to do. So that's what I mean by the brain, understanding what the brain is and how it works. You have to think of it just as a machine, because it literally is, just like your heart is designed to do a certain job, keep your blood flowing and your lungs to keep you breathing and all that sort of thing. Your brain is designed to give you a great life, to make sure you stay out of trouble, you avoid problems, you avoid danger, and you do things that really make you happy, so that you survive and thrive.
Awesome. And absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree, because that's one thing that I talk about a lot on the podcast. So I'm so glad you're on, is the mental aspect of your money, right? Because once you get the mental down, the rest is easy. Because like you said, your brain is powerful and you can pretty much do whatever you want to do as long as you learn how to manipulate it pretty much. So with that being said, use it. So what are some tips for our audience on how to start getting to using all 4 parts of the brain?
Right. Well, you hit on it. There are 4 parts to the brain. But can I just say, asking the question, what's a good tip? That's a little bit, no disrespect to you, but that's a little bit using your brain the wrong way. Because if you think of it like this, you go into your house one day and there's a crack on the wall. Now, the quick fix idea is to say, oh, there's a crack on the wall, I need to fix that. So you find out what to do to repair it. You know what you need, you go to the hardware store, you learn how to fix a crack on the wall, and you fix it. And you go, great, I've fixed the problem. Brilliant. But you come home the next day, and there's 2 cracks on the wall in your house. And you go, oh, okay. Well, and then you fix the 2 cracks. The next day, there's 4 cracks. And what ends up happening in that situation, you're spending all your time being busy with quick fixes, fixing the crack in the wall, but you haven't taken the time to realize you should be asking what's causing the cracks in the first place. And then you realize, instead of me trying to fix all the cracks and just being busy getting nowhere, I need to get underneath the house and find out what the foundations are doing and what is wrong there. So the point I'm really making is the same with your brain. If you take the time to understand a little bit about it, instead of just looking for quick fixes and quick ways to solve problems, what you end up doing is sorting out the way your brain works once, and then you can, just like the car, then you can just allow it to do its job, giving you a good life. So that's the short answer to your question about quick fixes. But the other short answer is really I could just explain a little bit about how these 4 parts of the brain work. And I think when people understand that, they'll realize A, how to use their brain the right way, and B, why they haven't been, and see what happens when you don't use it the right way. It'll all make sense. Is that all right with you?
Yeah,
okay.
Go right ahead,
There's four
please.
parts to your brain. I teach all this in a lot more detail. And of course, there are scientific words for what I'm explaining, but this is I've simplified it down really into a model that's really easy to understand. There's basically four parts to your brain. The first part is your thinking brain. That's on the top of your head. And this part of your brain, it's designed to take all the information that you gather in your life, whether it's through your senses, what you see, smell, taste, touch, or hear, or through your thoughts or anywhere else, and it stores it in there. It's like a library or a database of all of your knowledge, all of your experience. That's your thinking brain. The second part of your brain is your feeling brain, your emotional brain. That's just below the thinking brain in your head. And this obviously takes care of your emotions. It's what makes you feel emotion, good and bad, from love, gratitude, happiness to anger, frustration, fear, worry, those sorts of things. That's your emotional brain. The third part of your brain is your survival brain, and that looks after everything to keep you alive. So all of the things you don't really think about, like your heart beating and your breathing and all of your organs working, your body working. And it also looks after a really interesting feature of survival, which is called the fight, flight, freeze instinct, where imagine in prehistoric times, the lion comes running out of the jungle at you, and you have to react. Your brain goes, there's an immediate danger, an immediate threat to your survival, there and then, I need to get rid of it. So what kicks in is this part of your brain, and it gets you to run away or shout for help or stand and fight. So it's like a survival mechanism to deal with an immediate threat or danger. Okay, so they're the three main parts of the brain. But there's another part of the brain, which is called your creative brain. And this is the part that has things like your intuition, where you get this idea, maybe I should do that, or that sounds like a good idea, or that doesn't sound like a good idea. That gut feeling that you get over things. It's also where your imagination is, your creativity, where you come up with new ideas. People who create businesses, or artists or musicians who compose music, or people who paint, all of this information, it doesn't come from their thoughts, but all their ideas and all their creativity comes from this part of their brain, their creative brain. And it's also where you make good decisions, including financial decisions. This is the part of brain that will make sure that you make the right decisions financially, and you avoid making what I used to make, catastrophic, bad decisions financially. So you stop doing that. It's also where you get a clear picture of what you really want to be happy and what you need to be happy and what you need to feel successful. And it also brings you, and this sounds a bit weird, but when you're aware of this through what I've come to become aware of through research, is that your brain is so powerful, it literally will bring to you the right opportunities, the right people, the right circumstances, situations, which we often call luck or synchronicity or coincidence. That's all managed by this creative part of the brain. So this is the way you're supposed to live. Or not you, well, you as well, but all of us. We're designed to survive and thrive by letting our creative brain run our life. So that's when we feel good, we're happy, we're making the right decisions, we're coming up with the right ideas, the right people are showing up in our life, the right situations, and we're just really enjoying life. And that's the way we're supposed to live. That's using your brain the right way, is being in what I call your creative natural state, because it is your natural state. This is a biological thing. We haven't got time to go into the detail, but any biological scientist will tell you this is all correct. So anyway, but there's only one time you're not supposed to be feeling good, being creative, doing all the right things, and that's when the lion comes running out at you from the jungle. And what happens then is your brain does something very different. It activates that survival instinct I was talking about, that fight, flight, or freeze instinct. But here's the really interesting thing. When it does that, it makes you feel afraid and anxious and stressed. That's a sign that you've activated this part of your brain to deal with an immediate threat or a danger. And what it actually does is it blocks off the creative part of your brain to allow your brain and your body just to focus on this immediate danger, this immediate threat to your survival. So here's the key thing. It blocks off your creative brain. And it's only designed to do that for as long as you have an immediate threat or danger. So as soon as the lion goes away, or you fight it off, or you jump out of the way, or whatever it is, you go back to being in this creative state naturally. Your brain switches back and says, well, there's no more danger here. Switch back to your natural creative state, being happy, feeling good, and then all of these good things start happening again. But you can see what the problem is. Most people are living with their survival brain activated most of the time. So they're feeling stressed, they're feeling anxious, worried, afraid. And what are they doing then? They're not only is their brain telling them there's some immediate danger when there isn't, they've blocked off all their creative brain. So if you're trying to create your life, if you're trying to make the right decisions, if you're trying to avoid making mistakes, if you're trying to solve problems, you can't do that, because all of those resources, the ability to do that, is in your creative brain, and you're blocking it off. You're shutting it off. And this is why most people struggle so much, because they're trying to use a part of their brain that is not designed to solve problems. It's not designed to build your ideal life. It's not designed to get you making the right decisions. They're trying to use that rather than the part that is. And so this is how, when you get to use your brain the right way, all you really need to do is train your brain to understand the difference between an immediate threat to your survival to make you feel afraid, the difference between that and everything else that you think you're afraid of, which isn't actually a real threat to your survival. You know, watching something on TV that says maybe one day the stock market's going down, maybe you'll be penniless and end up homeless, which happened to me. That's what your brain is thinking. You're telling your brain, or your brain's telling you that there's a danger in the stock market going down, but there isn't. You don't know what, it could. Great investors say it's the greatest opportunities when the stock market goes down. That's when they buy more. But you can see the problem, that people are using their brain the wrong way. They're not allowing this part of their brain to drive their life, and instead they're being stressed, afraid, worried, and they're trying to force themselves into their ideal life, and it just doesn't work.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. I don't know if you saw the wheels turning, when I did this number, but this goes back to also thinking about, for instance, when you're saying when people are in survival mode, same thing with money, right? Like if they're in survival mode with money, they can't fully think about how to use the creative part of their brain and handle money the right way. And so it goes all back to what you were saying. And then they end up in jobs that they hate, or sticking around for too long, or not able to live their full potential, or whatever the case may be, because they're constantly in survival mode. So that is spot on. And another thing that I thought about too was looking at it from the more energy perspective too. So for instance, when you're operating in low vibrational energy, which is stress, angry, things like that, it blocks you from getting to the higher levels of vibrational energy. So being happy and so on and so forth. So it's both of those things are affected. And this is why, honestly, I do not watch the news, because I feel like they want to keep us in this state of low vibrational, or using our survival brain instead of, getting to the higher levels and using our creative brain. So I love how you broke it down biologically, how this is all very, very true. So this is awesome. Now, Liam, because you said a mouthful and I have so many questions. I might have to have you back. But you definitely dropped some gems on this podcast episode. So I hope everyone is able to take something away from this. Now, if people were interested in learning more about what you just talked about, using the 4 parts of your brain, making sure you use the brain the right way, how would people be able to find you?
Best thing is just to go to my website, which is just my name, liamnaden.com. I've got all my podcasts, which explain a lot more detail what we've been talking about. I've given you the the 30-second version. But I think you made some can I just say, you made some interesting points yourself about, the difference between or switching off the news, because if you realized, and this isn't really anything to do with the mind, this is pure biology about how your brain works. Your brain is a biological machine. But if you realize that anything that makes you feel afraid is going to stop your brain from operating in a way to bring you everything that you really want and to make the right decisions, if you really realize that, and that's why I spend so much time trying to teach it, then you would do everything you could to avoid allowing negativity to come into your mind, because there's a lot more to it than just your thoughts, thinking, trying to think positive. It's a biological, the biological way you're designed to live. It's a bit like someone saying to you, drink this glass of hydrochloric acid and I'll give you $1 million. You're going to say, what? Hang on. And then they say, how about $10 million? You say, no, you don't get it. I'm not going to drink that for any amount of money, because that's going to damage me and ruin my life. And we have to have the same understanding, which is what I'm trying to share with people, how your brain works, that if you put some toxicity into your brain mentally, it's the same thing. And you get to the point of saying, hang on, I don't care what it is. I know that if it makes me feel bad, I'm finished. I'm activating the wrong part of my brain, and I'll never be able to get out to change my circumstances, change my situation, whatever it is. Because your brain is an infinite machine. It will do this for you, but you have to allow the part of it to be able to work. You have to take the handbrake off the car, as another analogy.
Oh my gosh. And that includes not just
Totally.
the news, but family, friends,
Yeah.
like anybody that brings any type of negative energy into your life. And that's one thing, like I live a very happy life for the most part. And if there is anybody or anything that stresses me out, like my resume is very, very long. If there's anything that stresses me out, I'm like, my peace of mind, all of that is not worth it. It's not worth being in this situation. And so now that you say it that way, I'm like, I've been living my life kind of like this. I probably need to do a little bit more cutting, but that makes complete sense as to why I'm doing exactly what I'm doing today and living a life that I love.
Yeah, because the other thing that we forget is, the reason we don't do this, firstly, we don't understand how our brain works, and this is the way that it will bring us everything we want. But because we don't understand how the brain works, we don't trust it. But can you imagine getting in your car and going, well, I know it's supposed to do this, and this is supposed to be how it works, but I'm going to get out every 5 seconds and just check that the wheels are okay and everything's all right. Or you're going to drive with your foot hard on the accelerator and hard on the brake at the same time, because you're worried that you might take a wrong turning or go off the cliff at any moment. It's just not. It just doesn't work that way, does it? It doesn't matter how motivated you are and how much you pray or how positive you think you are. If you're just using it the wrong way, it's just not going to work. So that's the same with negativity. Simply, if you put it in your brain, you're just not allowing your brain to work. That's it.
Oh my gosh. I love this conversation, and I could go on for hours because this is so good. But if you all didn't catch Liam's website, we will definitely have it in the show notes. So, if you're driving, you didn't get a chance to write it down, check out the show notes. We'll have all his links, all of his information, especially to his podcast, because I'm going to subscribe because this is all gems. These are all things that you definitely need to tap into in order to make better decisions with your life. So thank you so much, Liam, for coming on the show today.
Thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you. And maybe next time you'll be in another country.
When you use your brain the right way, you trust it to take you where you're supposed to go. You don't need to make too many plans.
Oh, I love that. Oh, we can keep going.
Thank you.
But thank you so much, Liam. Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.